with local art consultants, which makes it easier because they understand the message better. I've had the experience working with art consultants from London in projects, and communication and target, understanding of target public as well is not the same. So I think it's definitely worth working with the local art consultants.
Erlen?
Yeah, commercial artists. I think artists is evolving because of the needs. Simply because they need to generate money. Some people really bend. Sometimes some of my friends like, hey, you're doing now commercial projects. Wow, that's great. I mean, before we were not doing that. So why? Because he needs to pay rent. He needs to pay rent. That's basic, and that's the evolution of certain artists coming to the commercial world, and it becomes a competitor at the end of the day. So those are the people who are players here.
I think I discussed it with somebody earlier on. It's a shame that for artists to be commercial artists, like you're saying, you would like to be pure artists where you were just painting, doing exhibitions, but you need to live and you need to have. It's a shame. It's very difficult here for people to work doing just that. You can't just rent a big warehouse and section it off and give different areas to artists because you're not allowed to sublet. If you want to get a trade license, even at a free zone, it's still going to cost an awful lot. It would be lovely to see a way that they were encouraging people to look at doing art as to make their living. Do you see what I mean? There just aren't those spaces to do it. So quite often, a lot of the commercial artists that we work with have a day job. There's very, very few that do this all the time.
I think I'm coming from this side, but I'd say like the way I see, because I just feel, I don't feel too good about calling art commerce or art commercial. I would say, I think what I would consider commercial art is when you commission an artist to do something, because you dictate from that freedom and soul and the self-expression that this artist usually follow to do his own art pieces. And that's where the commercial side, because there is business needs, a client and a brief and colors and stuff. But I think when the artist goes and creating work, I don't think so. I personally, I don't believe an artist say like, I think our clients will love smaller pieces than big ones, so let me create more smaller. Maybe it's being advised, but still the content of those small or big pieces will be from him or her absolute freedom. Where whenever it's commissioned, then I would call that a commercial art because it's been commissioned based on a brief.
Parameters.
I mean, that's personal.
All art to me is commercial. The art market is pure commerce. Let's be honest, guys. You hang it up. I mean, I love art, obviously, and I enjoy art history. I love talking to artists about their practice. I'm not saying they only care about selling, but let's be honest, when something is sold, it's commerce. Like, there is a transaction, someone is paying money for something else. You can't really say, unless you keep all your art to yourself, that you're not a commercial artist. And I think this idea of artists just being allowed to be artists is definitely amazing, but I think it's hugely unrealistic. And I actually don't think it's that normal. You know, it really isn't. If you look back at the Renaissance masters, they weren't, you know, just thinking about painting St. John the Baptist, you know, some sort of biblical scene on somebody's house. They were employed to do so, you know, and this is the whole art history, and the whole history of the art market is about, you know, artists being supported through their work. That makes you a commercial artist, and that's not a bad thing. Like, this sort of obsession with people thinking, oh, I don't want to come across as commercial because then people are not going to want to buy my work, is ridiculous. Because actually everyone has to sell their work to survive, although, as Khalid pointed out, not everyone. You know, most people have to sell their work to survive. It's not a bad thing to sell your work. Be a proud commercial artist.
I think the fear of selling out, the fear of selling out, that is destructible for people and creatives.
It's a lot easier to deal with when you're driving a Mercedes, though.
Do you think Damien Hirst feels bad about it?
You know,
I don't think so.
just to add on to what Louise said about the whole space, you know, where you can afford to be a commercial artist. I think that is lacking, and that is like an amazing thing, amazing platform for designers, new local emerging artists to really develop themselves and appreciate, and then they can support one another, you know, and having that kind of a space really builds, and you know, that's one. And another thing is the whole thing about being commercial. Sure, a lot of artists feel like they're selling themselves short, you know, but when it comes for us in our side, interior designers, if we bring in the artist from the start, you know, we commission them from the start, we work together. It's a collaborative process. So we actually could use the artist's color schemes into our scheme. So this way it's mutual effort, mutual results, you know. So it doesn't always have to be that, yes, and it comes out to be a very powerful collaboration if it works. Sometimes artists' egos, like I love what Wafa's got on her door, and that is, it's the truth, you know. It comes down to your ego, you know. If an artist can bring down, it's not selling themselves short, but it's actually working together and coming up with an end result that is commercially viable.
What most artists are worried about from our point of view when we say to them, would you like to be part of a commercial project, a restaurant, a hotel, bar, anything? They're like, well, I'd rather be in the Sharjah Biennale, or I'd rather actually be in MoMA. And of course, that's what I think you're trying to say. You worry about being seen as purely money-driven and sort of typecast into a certain type of role, when actually they still want to be considered for awards, prizes. I think that, you know, kind of what I said before sounds contradictory, but you can do both. And I think people have just got to calm down.
And a lot of our artists, like the older artists, the well-known ones, have done both, you know, and they've established themselves to that level. So it's a process to get there.
Okay. Do you find that you use? Do you find that there are lots of cultural restrictions to the art that you can advise your clients to use?
I wouldn't say, for example, for residential clients, not so much. For commercial spaces, yes, we try to avoid human figures, animals. Sometimes we've had such requests. But I don't really find it restricting, because as an artist, there's so much you can do. Even if you say, okay, you're conditioned by these colors and you can't have animals or people or whatsoever, there's still such a huge universe of options that you can work with that I don't find it restrictive.
I'd like to maybe open it up to, you know.
The minute we finish this question, it's going to be opened up.
Cultural. Okay, there's so much we can, you know, not typecasting to cultural. Like, for instance, people, when you commission something for a hotel, oh, we want something that's local. Okay, let's just put a camel up there, put some sand dunes. You know, there's so much you can do. You know, I think, personally, we have gone away from that. The newer hotels and new boutiques, new places that have developed. And this is a trend, which is a positive trend, you know? So yes, cultural aspects, we can have a hint of it, and then develop it further.
I think Sarah was talking about Rove Hotel, because we're one of the designers who did something there. So talking about the cultural sensibilities, what you put there, I think the idea that you've been immersed so much of the culture here, even though you're an expat and you immerse yourself there and you have a great deal of knowledge of what's happening here, you know definitely what's the restrictions and what's funny and what's humorous and what's not humorous. So definitely those people who are like, I will just use canvas because that's typical of Dubai. No, it's not. You can go to Satwa and look for so many icons of Dubai. Like you won't find here in the new Dubai. I mean,
we we're actually called in quite often to advise international brands about the cultural awareness with the artwork. And I think, yes, you're walking into an international hotel, but there are things, you know, where the order of the shape portraits is incredibly important. You can't walk in and have, you know, a figure or a nude or anything of that nature. And I think that's just part of us living here, and part of what we do is to be very respectful towards that. But you're right, it doesn't restrict. It just means there's a small section that we just put over there, and there's an awful lot more we can do.
No, I see